Hello and welcome to another edition of Gearbox Garage. Today we are going to be showing how to set a post for a entry gate, installing the gate, and installing a gate opener. So the first thing we're going to do is you get a rough idea of where it's going to be. You're going to go ahead and dig you a good hole. This hole I was able to go about 2.5 feet down before I hit a boulder, and so I ended up putting about 210 pounds of concrete down in there, and you want to make sure it's straight and plumb. And then when you decide what size gate you're going to use, you'll get your gate, you will set it each end on lumber, and you want to make sure that the top of the gate is level. This one's I've got an uneven driveway, so I've got the gate sitting just a little bit high over on that side there, and that's just the way I did that one. This one also has hinges that both the bottom and the top are adjustable up and down on the face of the gate there. So once you get the gate positioned on the blocks and it's level, you want to make sure then that you've got the gate where you want it in between the poles. So like here you can kind of see I've got it right in between and the poles where I want. Then you'll go ahead and mark your hole for your mounting hardware. I use a 3/8 or 7/16 drill bit to open the hole up so that that 5/8 pin will go in a little easier. I screw it in, and then if you have to do any minor adjustments, that's what your little clamps here for, so you can raise it up and down a little bit. Once you get everything bolted on and secure, you can go ahead and remove the blocks and check out the gate. Now you might end up having uneven ground, but you basically just want a nice swinging gate that doesn't hit the ground, it doesn't flex too much, and it just swings right on open to the point where you want it. And when you get to that point and it's still level and didn't bind up, didn't hit the ground, then we're ready to move on to the putting in the automatic gate. Alright, so now that we've got our gate up and working, now what we'll do is we'll take the gate opener out of the box, and you're going to have the main controller or the arm, and then the main box, and then you'll have a bunch of brackets that'll go on here. And what you need to do is you need to, with the gate in the 90 degree position, meaning from where the gate's going to open up to where it's at now, you want the gate sitting, you know, kind of like so it's 90 degrees open. And then you're going to put on the brackets just to get an idea of what your gate offers as far as locations for mounting. Now this one being a tube gate with a wire mesh, you can't mount to the wire mesh because it will destroy it. There is a good amount of energy in these gate openers that if you don't have a good secure mount, you're going to know it quick, because it's going to be bent and it's not going to be opening, it's not going to be closing. So what I did was I went to the hardware store and I bought that, and that is a piece of rounded metal that they use for mounting electrical boxes onto the side of houses, and it's super thick. A 10-foot piece was $20. You know, you could have used flat stock or an angle iron or channel or something, but then you got to drill holes. And so with this being as thick as it is, and it already had the holes in it, and all I had to do was go buy it, cut it, and paint it, you know, that to me is a no-brainer. So you get everything mounted up in a position where you want it. So you've got the those I bought from, I think it was McAllister's Bolt and Hardware online. It's a stainless bolt with a rubber wrap, so it gives a good, nice, tight tension. and it fits right through there. It's a little bit larger than the bolts that you would normally get for something like that, and they're longer. Thought I could use like a muffler clamp, but the muffler clamps are too short, so I ended up buying those. And I love them. They work great. These bolts are what came with it, and they're too long, and they're, as you can see, it sits a little weird. I know that's going to be where it's at, so I'll probably just change the bolts at a later date once I get it up and running. Now you clamp your main bracket to the pole, and I always like having just a little bit of a kick. You can kind of see how this bracket here, which is adjustable, it's kicked out that way just a little bit, so that it gives you an angle toward the gate. So it's pushing basically the gate open and not trying to push the pole over. So once you get it, you want to get the bolts on, get the brackets on, get everything where it's sitting where you want, and you want to be able to put the arm up and make sure the arm is sitting level with the gate. You don't want it tipping one way or the other. You just want it sitting right nice and clean. Once that happens, then you can remove the gate, or remove the arm from the gate, which is where we're at now, and we can open up the gate, get it out of the way. And we can address drilling those bolts and running those bolts through the pole, you know, with big heavy washers on the back side. And those I had to go to the hardware store and buy, because the stuff that comes in the kit to me is just too small, too thin. It's not graded, and it's just an inferior bolt in my opinion, so I just prefer to do it once and I keep doing it. So we will drill those out, and we'll mark them, drill them, put the bolts in, snug everything up, and then we will come back and see what the gate looks like when it's ready to be operating. Alright, we are back. I have the holes drilled for those, and I'll cut the extras length off there once everything's done and I don't have to do any more adjusting. So those are in and tight, and I have the bolts that they come with. These here, they're cheap, they'll rust up, they don't have lock washers or lock nuts, and I've had to fill in the hole because the nuts keep falling off. So keep in mind, make a list, get rid of all the little junky stuff. Same with these here. I'll end up changing those out so that I don't have to have those cut off. Alright, so once we have the holes drilled and we've got our bracket mounted, with the gate open, you can then put the arm on, drop it down in this hole and put the pin in, and then you can drop this pin down and put the clip on. And this one I ended up doing a solar panel as well, mainly because I'm out here away from the shop, there's no power, and I've had several of these units and they just work great. So basically, when you get that out of the box, it's simple. It's just a couple of clips, a couple of bolts, and get it loose but together so you can adjust it if need be. Same here, get it in position, put your clamps on, tighten your bolts up, and then you do your final adjustment. Now it says that you want that facing south. As you can see, I've got an entire tree line pretty much shooting dead south. So I've got mine turned just a little bit so it catches a little bit more rays in the morning, and then once the sun is cutting through the trees like it is now, it's already, the battery's charged and I don't have to worry about it. I believe the amount of a full charge battery, it's some ridiculous thing. It's like it'll do 120 cycles in a day with a charge, so you know I've never had to worry about battery being dead from the solar panel. Now one thing that I suggest, and I don't remember who told me or where I learned it from, but I bought a second battery, and it's mainly so the solar panel doesn't overcharge just the one battery. Now with the 2 batteries, it'll charge. I have no issues. I've got one on the gate behind me for the main house, and it's been 5 years. And I have power at my dad's house, and we've had it up for 12 years. So it works well. They're great systems. The early ones had a few issues, but these here are great. And this, I want to point out, is the 560. It has this entire box. They have other versions that don't have the electronics in the box, and the electronics are in the arm, and then you have to set a marine grade battery in an enclosure down here loose on the ground. I don't like that aspect of it. These aren't any more money. These work better in my opinion. They're cleaner. You can get everything that you got to do, and it works great. So once we've got the solar panel hooked up, we run the wires down. I run them into the same grommet that the main arm feed through, and then you can snug that up. We run it up, and right here, right here it says input power, and then over here underneath it on the edge it says solar panel. So you don't have to, it doesn't matter which wires go where. If they're not marked, it won't matter. So those go in that. Your main arm, they're color coded, and directly behind it it says, you know, the exact color it needs to be. So all of those go in. I do the ground last. This particular one here is for a push button. So if I'm out walking to go get mail or something and I don't have my remote on me, I can hit the push button and open up and close the gate. And everything else is basics. Now the only other adjustments that you normally have to do is once you hook everything up and you put the gate in the open position, on your remote, if you don't have open up the back, you can look and see where the DIP switches are at. You can change them if you want, leave them if you want. But if you change them, you just click this button while holding the remote for 5 seconds, and it'll program the remote's DIP switches to this board. Now when you hit the button, it will close. It might not stop where you want. So what you end up having to do, for what I had to do, was I had to find me a way of stopping the gate. Now normally the pole will stop maybe against your big pole. This one, once we did the fence, it pulled that fence post over in that direction a little bit away. So I'll have to build me something else. But for now, I have a little bracket here. So I made this bracket so that it stops against it. So then if it doesn't stop where you want, you open it up, open the gate in the full position, you hit and hold this learn master switch for 5 seconds or until it beeps. Then hit your remote, and then when it closes and it gets to the point where you want it to close, you stop it with a remote. Then you come back and hit the learn master limit button once again, and that programs your close position. Here you have the auto closure adjuster. You can stick it right in there and change the time. I have it so that it pretty much, as soon as somebody's waiting, or you pull up to it, you hit the button, you in a truck or a truck and a trailer can get in before it closes. So it's almost off. And then there's a stall force. This here is if it has to swing uphill or downhill, you can adjust it, and I have it almost. If it was 1 to 10, it's probably a 2, and that one's probably a 1. And it's always worked good for me. And the only other issues that you'll ever run into with these things is, as you can tell, I got a lot of wind. If you have a spot where the wind is blowing the direction that it is, it's pushing the gate closed. But if it's blowing in the other direction, it will try to move the gate open. So you'll have they make other devices that you can put an actual lock in there and have it so that it actually locks, so that it releases first and then the gate opener starts, if that becomes an issue. But that's the basics of what I've learned over the last 15 years of putting these things together. I would probably say once the gate's hung and is swinging, these can be put on in 30 minutes to an hour. You can probably have it up and running in 30 minutes and then fine-tuned with the closures and the remotes and all the other little stuff in another 20 minutes or so. But that's it, and we'll see it work. And that'll be in the open position where we wanted it. And on these things, you'll notice that when they open, it kind of sounds like it's binding, and same with when it's closing. But that's the stall feature that's built into these, so that it hits and kind of grunts through it. And then if you have it turned up high and there's an issue, it might trigger something. But typically, where I have the settings, you'll typically get this type of a sound when it's closed, and then everything's working great. And then turned off. And that's it. All right, hope you enjoyed.